Jim, let's play some Guess the Program, get you in a good mood.
I thought you'd never ask.
Guess the Program is where I go through programs in my collection, give Gene details about the programs, and he guesses the time, the date.
Quickly, I'll do it quickly today.
Everything he has. Let's get to this.
Everything I've got, baby, in my borderline mystical way.
This one.
I did good in Buffalo the other week.
You did it spectacular, I would say, that day. This one here, Jim. Grizzly Boone.
Oh, good Lord.
Versus Ron Garfield. Alex Perez versus Stan Lane. Manny Fernandez versus Radamias.
Good Lord.
Midgets. Butch Cassidy versus Little Tokyo. In a tag team match, Jim, Dory Funk Jr. and Merced Solis versus Mr. Pogo and Akio Sato. And the main event for a tag championship I won't name, David and Kevin Von Erich versus Ted DiBiase and Jack Mulligan.
Good Lord. Okay. Things became clearer after those first two matches. I thought I was in some kind of fucking hallucinatory state. Let's start. Grizzly Boone versus Ron Garfield. Grizzly Boone would later on become more widely seen out of the Georgia Independence when he did some low-level stuff for WCW. And wasn't he partners with, were they the Commandos, he and Ray Candy? Or was that in Jody Hamilton's independent promotion in Georgia at that point in time?
You may be right.
Ron Garfield, at one point, Don Fargo was his brother too. For whatever reason, during the, I believe, summer of 1978, Nick Goulas used Ron Garfield and his brother Don Garfield, who was obvious. They even called him sometimes Don Fargo Garfield. Fargo had been in Nashville for 20 years with their manager, Las Vegas Louie. It's the only time I've ever heard of Ron Garfield being booked. Al Perez and Stan Lane. Alex Perez was an old-time Tennessee favorite as a heel, but this is Al Perez, who later on would become Al Perez with Gary Hart, and everybody knows what's going on there. Stan Lane, wonder whatever happened to him. We'll come back to that. Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull, against Radamias, who was Bill Howard with some kind of hooded, druid-looking, spooky fucking gimmick that I never fully understood. But I loved the name because a lot of the fucking local ring announcers it was spelled Ratamyus. But I think especially the announcer in Indianapolis, Bob Beach, who was a mushmouth, called him Radimus. Butch Cassidy and Little Tokyo, two of the midgets of the time. The two tip-off matches are Dory Funk Jr. teaming with Merced Solis, who would later become Tito Santana, but this was very early in his career, against Akio Sato, who would later on work in the office in Kansas City and be one of the links to Japanese talent when they came to America and vice versa. And Mr. Pogo, goddamn, he worked here also in 77 in Tennessee for a brief period of time. But it's not gonna change my knowledge of this card or this date, Brian. But Mr. Pogo, what was his Japanese name when he went back and was somewhat of a high-level star in Japan? What the fuck was his name?
Well, he was still Mr. Pogo for FMW against Onita years later. That was like one of Onita's big feuds.
Okay, then I guess he had another name here that he worked. Did he work under another name in Florida? Why am I thinking he had a name change?
You might be right. I just don't know.
Nevertheless, And David and Kevin Von Erich against Ted DiBiase and Blackjack Mulligan. Everybody knows who they are. And this is the West Texas territory when the Funks had sold it to Murdoch and Mulligan. And it was Stan Lane's first territory out of the Carolinas. And because of that, I am going to say that this is 1979 in Amarillo, Texas.
It is a program from February 9th, 1978.
Ah!
Lubbock, Texas.
Ah!
And what's interesting here is that the Von Erichs...
Lubbock instead of Amarillo also. There's 50 miles difference.
The Von Erichs are heels here, it appears. If I go to an article
yes, because there was the thing of Dallas and Mulligan was a hero in West Texas, and so was Teddy.
American Tag Team Championship title can change hands on a count outside of the ring. Just 2 weeks ago tonight, the Von Erich brothers did one of the most unsportsmanly things that has ever been seen in our local ring.
Unsportsmanly?
That's what it says.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, the most unsportsmanly thing that has ever been seen in our local ring, when, in a very tight spot, they left the ring and deliberately got counted out. There was every reason to believe that had they stayed in the match against the team of DiBiase and Mulligan, they would have lost the American Tag Team title. A stiff fine was not enough, and the NWA has ordered a rematch with the titles at stake and a special clause that reads, if they are counted out this time, the title can change hands. And the result written in, DiBiase and Mulligan won via disqualification. David and Kevin hit referee Terry Garvin.
Good Lord.
They were full-fledged heels. Wow, I didn't realize they did that in 78. That's something.
Well, see, here's the thing. At this point in time, the Funks had sold the territory to Dick Murdoch and Blackjack Mulligan. And Murdoch and Mulligan business was down already. Murdoch and Mulligan were trying to make a go of it. The Funks, I think Terry was already living in Florida maybe at that point in time. I don't know, but Dory was on the card here. But, it wasn't like this was a goddamn major money match with Dory Funk Jr. And the rest of the card, Stan was there in the West Texas territory, but they were having to bring in the Von Erichs from Dallas as their main event guys. And that's when Fritz had brought the American Tag Team title into existence the year before, when David and Kerry broke in and they were the first champions, and they beat the Funks, as I recall, for the American Tag Team title to establish it in Dallas. And the Funks from Amarillo, from West Texas, came in as the heels there against the babyface Von Erichs. When the Von Erichs, the Von Erichs had no reputation at this point in time. They were rookies. So they could come in and be heels because they're from Dallas going against our local guys. Simple, easy as that.
I would have loved to have seen that in 78, how skinny David was, and Kevin was just starting out a couple of years in as chicken.
David was a heck of a heel in Florida a couple of years later, so he
81.
was probably pretty good.
Yeah, I'd love to see that stuff, but let's go to our next program here, Jim. Special added attraction, pro wrestler Tuffy Truesdale will wrestle a live 8-foot-long alligator. Russian-style Wrestle Royal. 4 singles matches, as men are eliminated from Wrestle Royal, which will contain Carl and Eric von Bronner, Saul Weingroff, Herb Welch, Tamaya Soto, Corsica Joe, Jose Moto, Chuck Conley, and Ronnie Etchison. There'll be an intermission with lucky numbers, and finally the main event, for a title I won't name, Wilbur Snyder versus Al Costello.
Good Lord, this Tuffy Truesdale not only had wrestling bears, but he also did a thing where he wrestled an 8-foot live alligator. So that is, but he traveled. That could have been anywhere, any place. That doesn't tell us anything. Carl and Eric von Bronner and Saul Weingroff, the Carl and Eric days, I believe, were in the mid-60s. Herb Welch being on the card puts us somewhere in the Tennessee territory, because at that stage of his career, he was not still working out like Georgia or other territories. Corsica Joe also lends it to be the Tennessee territory, even though the Corsican brothers, Joe and Gene, were on top in Georgia and Florida at various times. Chuck Conley was one of the original Scufflin' Hillbillies, along with Rip Collins. And Ronnie Etchison was a top babyface in the Central States area for years and years, but he's out of place here. The Al Costello-Wilbur Snyder match, Al Costello was in between partners in the Kangaroos probably at this point, which is why it points me again to the mid-60s. And Snyder, the only question, what title this would have been, because it wouldn't be Snyder, the United States champion, because that was in the 50s. Would it have been for Al Costello's international title, possibly?
You know what? That one could lead you a lot of different ways, so I will just clarify what the title was. It was a return bout for Wilbur Snyder's U.S. Heavyweight Championship.
But then they've just made it up that or was this when he was the United States champion in San Francisco? But this is still in Tennessee or thereabouts. This is or did they just say, we're bringing Wilbur Snyder in, he's the U.S. champion, and Costello was a single heel? I don't know that this looks like a Memphis card, but it might be something for Nashville. Fuck it, I'll say Memphis, 1965.
Ooh.
Huh?
Jim, Memphis, Tennessee, Monday night, October 10th, 1966.
Shat. You know what? This makes sense as I go back and look, because this is a lousy card, to be honest with you. And the very next year is when Roy Welch would say to Jerry Jarrett, why don't you see if you can book this thing? He was burnt out, running out of ideas and talent.
I wasn't familiar with Wilbur Snyder's Memphis run. That's what surprised me about this thing.
Well, that's the thing, is there was not a United States title recognized in the Memphis territory for any length of time at any point. So in 1966, what U.S. title would Wilbur Snyder have had unless they just gave him one?
Let Tretch Phillips wrestle with your insurance problems, now connected with the Continental Assurance Company, Memphis, Tennessee.
You know what Tretch is short for, don't you?
Treacherous.
Treacherous Phillips.
All right, Jim, this next program, I'm going to institute one of the rules that we've used previously and leave off one match, which could be too much of a giveaway. That'll be the opening match.
All right.
The second match, I believe this would indicate one fall, 30-minute time limit. The Butcher versus Battleship Johnson. The third match, 2 out of 3 falls, 2-hour time limit, no DQ, World Tag Title, 2 different tag title claimants, The Enforcer and Ox Baker versus Chief Hill and Al Madrill. An intermission. Match 4, 1 fall to a finish. Maniac Tollus versus Freddie Blassie. One last intermission.
Ooh.
And finally, one fall 45-minute time limit. Chavo Guerrero versus Victor Rivera. Warning, no throwing anything into the ring or touching wrestlers at any time. You will be fined and or arrested if caught doing so.
Okay, good Lord. Here's the opening match. Was Gene LaBelle in it?
No.
The Butcher. I mean, is that Butcher Brannigan? Butcher Vachon? Probably not. That's open to interpretation. Battleship Johnson didn't make a large impression on the wrestling profession, apparently. That's Ox Baker, right? The Ox?
Correct. Ox Baker and the Enforcer.
And the Enforcer would be Enforcer Luciano?
One of the worst wrestlers ever? Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Chief Hill would be Frank Hill, who later became Jules Strongbow, Jay Strongbow's last tag team partner. They were the Strongbow brothers. And Al Madrill, a journeyman in a variety of places. Let's skip to the main event. Chavo Guerrero, that's Chavo Sr., and Victor Rivera. All things point toward this being the dying days of the Los Angeles territory, except suddenly there's the biggest drawing match in the history of Southern California wrestling. John Tolos and Fred Blassie as the semifinal. But this was not 1971 in the LA Coliseum. So my thought is that Mike LaBelle was trying to do something, anything, and some way or another, the California Commission, which had necessitated Blassie leaving the state and moving to become a manager for Vince Sr. in the Northeast in 1973, because that's when he turned 55 and he couldn't get a wrestling license. This is, I'm going to say, at least 5 years later, if not 6, Chavo was still a young, fiery babyface, and Rivera, they both lived out there. Rivera had made money there before, but this is Los Angeles at a very poor period of time for business, and I'm going to say 1979.
Ooh, once again.
Oof.
Jim, it's the Olympic Auditorium, Los Angeles, California. Friday, November 7th, 1980.
Oh, even worse. The more recent it gets, the worse the business was. So Fred there was 62.
And he looks 72. The match I didn't tell you, I thought it would be too much of a giveaway. I don't even understand exactly what it is.
Okay.
3 fall, 30-minute time limit, seemingly it indicates. A 3-3-3 match. The Assassin, Mondo Guerrero, and Cowboy Tom.
Ha!
Which is Tom Pritchard, I believe.
Yep.
But I don't know what that is. What's a 3-3-3 match? Was that a 3-way match?
I don't know what the fuck they're doing there. But it would seem like it. But is it a 3 fall 30-minute match with 3 guys? Is it some kind of deal where they rotate and the first person to win 2 falls or some, I don't know.
Maybe.
But Cowboy Tom was Tom Pritchard. That was one of his first ventures out of Texas. Mondo was obviously Chavo's brother. The Assassin, was that Ernesto? Was he trying to book for them then? Or maybe they just put some guy under a fucking hood, but Ernesto worked for that office at some point.
Well, there it is. I thought Cowboy Tom would be the big giveaway for you. You wouldn't narrow it down. Jim, our next program here, this one will be tough. Took me a while to actually figure out the date.
Oh, boy.
The opening bout, a special handicap match. The undefeated Crusher Derrick, 278 pounds, versus John Gazzardo, Len Gazzardo, and Don Reese, 250, 260, and 230 pounds individually. A one-fall midget match, 30-minute time limit. Little Tojo from Japan versus Mighty Little John from Kentucky.
Huh.
Main event number 2, one fall to a finish. World champion Paul Christie, 222 pounds, Evergreen Park, versus Wildman Alexi.
Okay, Jim Alexi.
240 pounds, Greece. And finally, the main event, 2 out of 3 falls, 60-minute time limit. Graduate Angelo Poffo and Thunderbolt Williams versus the White Knight and the Masked Avenger.
Okay. This, first of all, Crusher, what was his last name?
Crusher
Derrick. Hey, Derrick.
Crusher Derrick, that's right.
Yeah, and the other guys, the midgets are outlaw midgets. The only White Knight Masked Avenger who knows Thunderbolt Williams, no fucking clue. The giveaways here are the World Heavyweight Championship match with Paul Christie as the champion against Jim Alexi and Angelo Poffo being in the main event. This was when Paul Christie at one point in time was the world champion for Phil Golden's All-Star Wrestling, and that Angelo Poffo worked a program with him and was the top heel back in that 72-73 period when Phil Golden was trying to compete in Louisville and different places with Jarrett and Goulas. And then later on, that same territory, as we've talked about, Poffo would try to run when he had the ICW with his sons, Randy and Lanny. And at one point after Phil Golden had pulled out, Poffo continued on with putting some of his own money in it. That's the only thing he'd spend money on, is promoting wrestling. So I think this is Angelo Poffo using Paul Christie, who lived in the Illinois area, as the world champion after that TV had folded and just running his own independent show. And so I'm going to say that this is somewhere in the southern Illinois or western Kentucky area in 1974.
All right, well, you may be right about the first part or the second part. The town, Racine, Wisconsin.
Oh, no, I'm not. That's way off.
The promoter, I just saw his name, Dick Carlson. And the date, Sunday, February 4th, 1973.
Okay, I was 1 year off, but Racine, Wisconsin is a long way away. But this was and the promoter, Dick Carlson, this was an Angelo Poffo production. Some way or another, he found this guy and got, because Racine in 1974 was an AWA territory. Vern could not have been happy. Paul Christie was working for Bruiser at that point in Indiana, so he was around. And Angelo, being the only other name on this whole show, he got this guy to run this town and had a piece of it for whatever reason.
Based on what I know and pictures I've seen, I think the little photos of the White Knight in this program, I think it could be Randy Savage.
That's very possible.
I think it's him. Yeah. Wow. Well, there we go. Racine, 1973. At least one last program here, Jim. This one, I'm going to use the rule and leave off one match, the opening match.
Okay.
$1,000 bounty match, John Condrey versus Tommy Gilbert. $5,000 challenge match, Buzz Sawyer versus Sweet Brown Sugar. Coco Samoa and El Gran Apollo versus the Outlaws. Dory Funk Jr. and Terry Funk versus Mike Graham and Jerry Lawler. And the main event, for a title I won't name, Dusty Rhodes versus the Assassin. Assassin number 1, actually, is what it says.
Assassin number 1. Okay. John Condrey is not Dennis Condrey. And I don't know whether he went any further or not, or if he changed his name or whatever. Buzz Sawyer against Sweet Brown Sugar, that's early Buzz. And Sweet Brown Sugar was Skip Young there, not the Coco Ware version. Coco Samoa would later on in Memphis become Sabu the Wild Man, but he was the original Sabu before Sabu existed, but he was primarily, he looked like Jimmy Snuka, except he was 6 inches shorter, had the same body, used to claim he was related to him. El Gran Apollo was this good-looking babyface kid that worked in Florida, which is where we are, in the late 70s, early 80s, and drew money because he was Hispanic, and that was part of their market. Not sure who the Outlaws are here. Would that have been the Davidson brothers? Would it have been the Ron Bass and someone? Nevertheless, the Funks against Mike Graham and Jerry Lawler. This was when Lawler was making shots in Florida and Funk was making shots in Memphis. And Dusty against Assassin number 1, that's Jody. So the question is, where in Florida is this in 1981? I believe 80, or am I jumping ahead because it might be 82? No, because Tommy Gilbert was not working Florida territory in 1982, I don't believe, but he was there in 81. This is 1981 in, if Lawler's on the card, it has to be one of the bigger shows because he only made shots. St. Petersburg, 1981.
The date, July 14th, 1981, Tampa, Florida, Fort Hesterly Armory, Tuesday night.
I was 20 miles off.
The match I didn't name was Hiro Matsuda versus Kelly Kiniski, and the title I didn't name was the World Heavyweight title. This was a Dusty Rhodes World title defense.
And that would have narrowed it down to, that would have given me the year there because of all of that.
Well, Jim, another great effort, and we'll be playing again very, very soon. Guest the program, and of course, the listeners have all heard you stomp right through wrestling history, and people want to stomp, or need to stomp, I guess, not want, in the mud, in the muck, in the mire. If you have to get gritty work done, you gotta do your thing, you gotta get it done, you want to feel good on your feet. Jim Brunt!
Boy, words and phrases. I'll tell you, I like the Brothers Johnson. Everybody take it to the top, we're gonna stomp all night. And you can stomp too in your work boots from our friends at Brunt. Because whether it is the Marin, the lightweight, waterproof, slip and oil resistant, heat resistant, electrical hazard rated boot, or the Omen, which has all those fine qualities but attaches in a different way, they're all great. You can join over 500,000 other customers by finally having durable work boots that are as comfy as sneakers. Do you know, just to test this out, Brian, what I did was I went and put my Brunt boots on and I hid in the bushes and I waited till an old lady walked by me. And then I tiptoed out from behind the bushes and went up behind her and screamed, "Ah!" She never heard me, Because the Brunt boots, they're built to last, but they're like sneakers.
Why would you use this example? What kind of example is this to use? She never heard me.
She never heard me sneak up on her. That just goes to show that if you want to sneak up on people in work boots, well, these are the boots to get.
If you want to do work in work boots that look good, that feel good, that get the job done, that are sturdy and again stylish yet comfortable, Brunt.
Yes. Well, you don't need to worry necessarily about the style when you're out covered up to your crotch in mud and muck and mire and phlegm and animal shit and deer poop and pellets.
Where is this happening?
Just out in the backyard.
Your backyard?
But at the same time, you can just hose these son of a bitches off and your feet will stay warm. Whether I've been climbing up on high things to grab boxes or mucking around in the mud, my Brunt work boots are the nicest I've ever had. And the Marin 6-inch soft toe is built for workers across a variety of trades without crimping. Because you know I got that bunion. And the bunion don't like the hard-toed boots, but these, there's no problem. No blisters, no pain. And you can also sneak up on people if you want to kick them. Oh, God. Let's say, for example.
No, let's not say, for example.
Bends over to pick up some change. You want to kick him right in the taint. Not the asshole, not the balls, but right in the taint. Boy, you can register your displeasure on a son of a bitch with these things. Boom, right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can certainly do damage if you kick someone with these boots because they're the real deal, but we don't want to encourage that. In fact, we want to discourage that and say,
well, you only do it if you have to.
Kick it into high gear and get that work done around the house or in the forest, wherever you may be.
Yes, these are built for the toughest job sites, and that's where you want to be able to kick good, because if somebody tries to steal your job, just kick them right in the head on the job site.
No,
you'll get over.
You'll go away is what you will do. But Jim, let's kick out the jams. No, let's kick out some great prices, some great deals for the listeners.
Yes, well, with temperatures dropping and the holidays coming up, you don't want to be on frozen feet, because if you get your tootsies amputated, then you won't be able to fucking play the organ like Brian. All reasons to treat yourself and or the hardworking man in your life to real comfort. So skip those throwaway gifts like used toilet paper and underwear with holes in them, and get him something built to last. Brunt workwear right now. You go to Brunt, that's B-R-U-N-T. It sounds just like, what do you think it sounds like, except Brunt?
Grunt and Brunt sound alike. They rhyme, but we're talking about Brunt.
One of those rhyming words, bruntworkwear.com, and use the code JCE. You're going to get $10 off your order. $10 off, which in this day and age, at this time, every nickel, and I would say penny counts, but they don't have them anymore. Every nickel counts. So save $10 off your entire order with the code JCE at bruntworkwear.com. And then let them know that you heard about them right here, and then kick somebody in the head or the taint.
Metaphorically speaking, kick the world in its tail and do great, but let's also
just kick everybody to the side.
Metaphorically speaking, kick everyone to the side and leave everyone alone. Metaphysically, but once again, Brunt, we love them, we support them, they support us, you should support them.
Except the people you're leaving alone.
Jim, that promo code one last time.
Bruntworkwear.com. The promo code is JCE.